This is my favorite single season of television ever released. And the fan response seems to agree.
The subject of Kemono Friends is animals, so no one is claiming rights to them. Animals don't claim portrait rights, after all. It's hard to put into words, but in that sense, we support derivative works, and I hope everyone understands that Kemono Friends is open to anyone.
Chapter 3: Kemono Mania.
Let's hope that みんな集まってジャンプジャンプすごいいい感じ君とどこまでも行きましょう
Like Kaji Hitoshi, the editor-in-chief at Kadokawa, said, Kemono Friends was open to the public. Fan work wasn't just allowed, it was highly encouraged. So much so that the official Kemono Friends website posted this. These are the guidelines for derivative works. In other words, if you make fan comics, or doujinshi, and you follow these guidelines, well then you're set, my friend. That is fair use. With the magic of Google Translate, here is what it says. Effectively, this permits any fan to make and monetize cosplay, illustrations, doujinshi, manga, novels. All of this is fair use to create and even sell. Prohibited things include commercial operations with high business potential, but it seems like Kadokawa rarely invoked this. Even in the modern day, games like Mega Serval are free to play on Steam, and right there in the credits, these guidelines are referenced as allowing the game to exist on a public marketplace. Copyright infringement of secondary material, like the anime, as well as the making of content that, quote, excessively damages the image of Kemono Friends, are also prohibited, although precautions as simple as assuring that adult art is not distributed to the wrong people are listed as helping mitigate this. In short, and some of the legal jargon notwithstanding, as long as minors aren't provided adult art and Kemono Friends media owned by other parties like TV Tokyo aren't stolen, Kemono Friends and its characters are free for fans and doujin circles to do what they want with, without fear of retaliation or takedowns by Kadokawa, as long as the content doesn't become so popular that it risks diluting the brand itself. The underground doujinshi culture of Japan would have likely swarmed Kemono Friends regardless, but with these incredibly lenient guidelines established, the culture exploded. That's our cue to finally talk about the Blu-ray release of Kemono Friends. Oh, we're almost there. The Blu-ray release strategy for Kemono Friends was unprecedented. According to Kaji,
these days, it's said that disc-like Blu-rays aren't selling, but event participation tickets and things that rely on the power of voice actors are selling, right? We have to sell features. When I thought about what to do, I wanted to weaken the feeling that you're just buying a Blu-ray. Another thing, I wanted people to think they look interesting when they see the products lined up in the store. So which method of distribution is suitable for that? After considering all of this, we decided to distribute them through books. I think fans who are used to anime Blu-rays will be surprised by this. The booklets that often come with Blu-rays are the same size as the case and have only a few pages, right? This time the relationship between master and servant is reversed. The book is the main body and the Blu-ray is the bonus. The format will be B5 paper and each will have 40 pages.
The first volume of the Kemono Friends official guidebook would be released on March 25th, 4 days before the finale aired on television. There would be 6 volumes, each containing a 40-page guidebook, including interviews, original art, friend biographies, concept art, as well as 2 episodes of the anime. Can you believe I only paid the equivalent of $10 for this on Mandarake? 3-day shipping all the way from Japan, too. That's amazing. At first, the idea of only getting 2 episodes at a time might come off as a cash grab, but that's not the case. Each guidebook is beautiful. The front looks like a National Geographic magazine, and the back has original art from Mina Yoshizaki, all of which is incredible and some of which is a little risque. The format of making each guidebook a collection of animal biographies is genius, considering the number of friends in the series. It's sort of the equivalent of if the Pokemon anime was released in box sets containing Pokédex entries. The print quality is fantastic, and there are even postcards in each of the books. These guidebooks are some of the highest quality pieces of merchandise for fans out there, and they are a far better value than just about any video game collector's editions I can think of. Kemono Friends fans? We're eating good. On the same day, March 25th, 2017, the first volume of Kemono Friends a la Carte was published by Shonen Ace. Kemono Friends a la Carte leaned into the idea that Kemono Friends could be drawn by anyone, because unlike Welcome to Japari Park, which had one artist, this manga had several. Each chapter would be drawn by a different artist, further encouraging fan art. This series would be an anthology made up of short stories taking place around the park. For example, Chapter 1 is about Kaban catching a fever and Serval trying to help her, ultimately resulting in her and Alpaca Suri hugging Kaban until she nearly passes out. When Volume 2 released on October 12th, it quickly became the #1 best-selling book on Amazon Japan, possibly helped by the fact that the limited edition shipped alongside an acrylic ornament drawn by Tatsuki himself. Kemono Friends a la Carte would go on for 4 volumes, with the final volume releasing 2 years after the first book did, on March 25th, 2019 in Japan, and in America, it would release on October 20th, 2020. If you count the English releases as separate, this manga was published over the span of 3.5 years, making it one of the longest-lasting pieces of Kemono Friends media. Far more than 4 volumes worth of stories very similar to a la Carte would be released, however. In fact, just 2 weeks after the first volume released and only 10 days after the anime finished airing, this came out. What is this? It's nothing special, aside from being one of the earlier Kemono Friends doujinshi to be printed, and there would be a ton. These are all from my personal collection, and here's the kicker, this isn't even half of what I own. Kemono Friends was huge, and that resulted in a similarly huge number of fan comics being released, most of which being completely innocent. Best of all, thanks to the lenient guidelines established by Kadokawa, I can show scans of the artist's work in this video without any concern for their well-beings. These are entirely legal published pieces of fan content, most of which I could not find online, and at last I am so happy to finally be able to share with you if a snake friend appeared in Japari Park instead. I opened to a random page. I can't. If someone had told me that in the process of making this video I would see this, I wouldn't. I think I could just give up. Life isn't gonna get better than this. It's just. There comes a time in every video project where you realize it's just not gonna get better than this. Luckily enough, at least part of this has been scanned and translated into English. Special thanks to Misaki Hiroyuki and Napska Moon on Mangadex for this. The best thing I can compare this to, although even that's underselling it, is Bart Kira, the retelling of Akira, with the characters replaced by characters from The Simpsons. But this is so much weirder. The author was clearly an enormous fan of both Kemono Friends and Metal Gear Solid, as evidenced by all of the deep-cut references in it. The first scene uses the same dialogue from the Kemono Friends anime on Serval's side.
You wanna play Hunter and Prey, huh? I won't lose!
But then this happens.
I see what you were trying to do, but testing a technique you've only heard about in the middle of battle wasn't very smart. But that was some fancy shooting. You're pretty good.
If it was only this chapter, it would read like the weirdest superfan crossover anomaly ever drawn, but it goes so much deeper. We have a zoo segment from the Kemono Friends anime, but it's about Snake's stealth abilities. Snake blows up the giant Celian with a rocket. The game's HUD is used for jokes like pressing R1 when Hippo, who is combined with Eva from Metal Gear, shows up. Both Snake and Serval get a chance to wear the croc cap and the Rykov mask. The scene in the jungle area, where the Ocelot is given a biography, sees the Ocelot replaced with Major Ocelot, who Serval immediately incapacitates. This whole book is basically the joke of what would happen if Kemono Friends and Metal Gear crossed over, written by a diehard fan of both series and taken to its absolute extreme. It's almost embarrassing to admit that it took until now for me to understand the joke behind why this even exists. These are both series where humans use animal names. At least, I would have assumed that to be the joke, but the author, Karamoneze, seems to have a history of including Snake in various crossovers, so maybe that's just what they like doing? I hope they keep doing it. Also, they gave guns to Otter. You're in danger. For real though, this is incredible. I like to imagine how funny it would be for this to be someone's first exposure to Kemono Friends. It's a wild ride and a testament to the quality of the fan work which was being released around this time. Kinda reminds me of that game actually, Celian May Cry. Oh, this? Yeah, we'll get to this later too. Summer and winter of 2017 seem to have been the golden age for Kemono Friends fan content, and it makes sense. The anime was fresh on everyone's minds. Artists are also able to sell their work at huge exhibitions in Japan, most famously Comiket, which, in 2017, had a whopping 32,000 vendors and 500,000 attendees. These two books are especially telling, because they're dated to August 11th and August 13th, which are the respective begin and end dates for Comiket 92. Another book worth noting is this one from October of 2017. It's an adorable what-if story about Grape-kun, someone who we'll discuss very soon, becoming a friend and meeting Peppapu, and especially his idol, Hululu. This doujinshi immediately caught my attention because of how precious the art is. But the detail that made this truly special was the event title on the back of the final page. This book was sold not at Comiket 92, but at Japariket 4. That's right, Kemono Friends was so popular that Mimiket, a group that hosts small-scale Comiket-style events, sponsored at least 4 different Kemono Friends expos for fans and doujin circles to sell their art. On Reddit, ZekiraDrake thankfully shared his experience with Japariket. He went to Japariket 3, and he noted that it actually shared a space with a Mimiket event for non-Kemono Friends art. However, Japariket managed to take up the majority of the area because of its incredible popularity. He shared that popular artists garnered massive, sprawling lines, and the fan work on display went far beyond just drawings. People created and shared shirts, acrylics, and perhaps most impressive of all, Kemofre Fight was for sale. This is a whole Kemono Friends fighting game made by fans. The passion, love, and dedication on display here is staggering, and the fact that people held what were basically Kemono Friends conventions around this time is a testament to how much the series meant to people. These doujinshi are incredibly valuable for understanding the fan base at the time. One of my absolute favorite ones is this manga, Romantic Fool. At first, the name might seem out of place, because this isn't a love story. The artist explains on the first page that Kemono Friends had a huge impact on him, and to celebrate that, he got together a group of his own friends who liked the show to all draw pages of art for this book. It's just really beautiful full-color art of his friends' favorite characters, with little blurbs sharing fun facts they discovered and projects they're working on, like this page advertising a Kemono Friends-themed shogi video game one of them made. There are 2 other pages of gorgeous art where both blurbs talk about how the artists thought the ending of the show couldn't have been any better. This book is a total love letter to how impactful Kemono Friends was for some people, inspiring them to program apps and learn to draw their favorite characters. And when I say learn to draw, I mean the whole second half of the book. It's full of these gorgeous drawings of Serval, and it is covered in blurbs, all made by the original artist who gathered his friends together in the first place.
Nice to meet you. I'm Oto Yoshida. Oh my god, I thought I was in love with all of the friends, but then I realized I was only drawing Serval-chan. This gentle Kemono world gradually penetrated into the depths of my heart. When drawing Kemono Friends, I thought I had to draw Serval-chan first, so I started practicing. No matter how many pictures I drew, it didn't look right. I was frustrated, but I kept drawing and drawing until one day, Serval-chan appeared on my screen. I can finally meet you, Serval-chan. I couldn't help but cry. It's important to be careful while drawing her. Serval-chan has a charm that cannot be easily expressed. I love Serval-chan. Serval-chan is innocent and full of energy, but her hard work early on was extremely hard. At one point, I was constantly drawing pictures of Serval-chan sleeping and worrying about her safety. I bet you had so much fun traveling with Kaban-chan that you forgot all about how tired you were. Serval-chan looks good on a tree. I also want you to teach me how to climb a tree. I want to eat Japari buns on a tree with you. I love Serval-chan. It makes me feel warm when I think about her. I love Serval-chan. I love Serval-chan.
That's right. The title Romantic Fool is not referring to a character, it's referring to the artist himself. He is deeply in love with Serval, and I cannot express how much I respect that. The name Romantic Fool tells us that he's aware that this isn't normal, and we know that he has a social life since he has plenty of friends who contributed to the book. He appears to be a totally functional guy who benefited greatly from Kemono Friends. Think about this. He loved the series so much that he learned how to draw this. All of this beautiful art exists specifically because he felt passionate enough about these characters that he needed to express it in art form. Not only that, but he got a social project off the ground. He gathered his friends together and they all drew this inspired art, and he managed to get a book printed and sold. Kemono Friends had such a strong emotional impact on these artists that they decided to learn how to draw this art, collaborate with other people, and have a physical book printed to share with the world. I think we can all learn something about the beauty people are capable of creating when they allow themselves to open their heart to things which they're passionate about. I think something else notable is the amount of safe for work content. All of these books are safe for work. Any anime with good designs can attract a lot of lewd artwork, but that isn't what's going on here. People identified so much with these characters and this world that all of this art was drawn, and it's totally innocent. Art like this is a way for people to spend more time in a world they adore with characters who have emotionally impacted them. It's excellent escapism, which encourages people to better themselves with new skills and leave their own mark on a series which has a lot of meaning to them. Keep in mind, the guidelines for derivative works specifically allowed NSFW art, as long as minors didn't get their hands on it. And yet, all of this exists out of innocent passion, not lewd fantasy. I think the fact that people were so touched by these characters that they chose to draw this much fun and innocent art is proof that Kemono Friends had struck a special chord with its viewers. I have so much incredible art here to share that it would be foolish to try and extend this section forever. So instead, I implore you to look up more work from the artists that stuck out to you. But before that, let's look towards the future, because we have so much more to get to from 2017. Okay, let's go ahead and dial things back to March 28th. The anime was about to premiere its final episode, and Mina Yoshizaki confirmed that there were plans for the Kemono Friends series to continue after the anime finished its run. Moreover, the anime staff announced that a new screen project was being worked on, alongside sharing this image, which admittedly doesn't say much about the upcoming project. People were ecstatic. In the words of one fan,
I don't know what form it will take yet, but I'm glad that Kemono Friends will continue. I didn't know how to express this joy, so I wanted to write a book. I love Serval-chan.
About a week later, episode 12.1 of the anime was released. Rather than airing on television, it was uploaded to YouTube and Nico Nico Doga by Tatsuki himself. Tatsuki was quick to clarify that episode 12.1 was not the new project which they had hinted at. Rather, he called episode 12.1 indie and said that it was made just for fun. The episode itself is almost disturbingly mild. It's about 3 minutes long and it takes place during episode 12, basically amounting to an extended scene of Fennec preparing to convert the Japari bus into a boat for Kaban. It's one of those episodes which is short and honestly pretty bland. 3 weeks after episode 12.1 released, a trading card and mobile app company called Bushiroad announced in April that they were working on a brand new Kemono Friends game, which would be released for smartphones during the summer. Better yet, this game would be an anime tie-in. It would be the first entry in what they would call
Project G.
Project G wouldn't just be a single game. Project G was the name of a plan to relaunch the gaming side of the franchise based on the success of the anime. On May 26, 2017, the official Kemono Friends YouTube channel began releasing previews for 2 new albums in the works. Besides the official anime soundtrack, they began promoting this, Japari Café. Named after Alpaca Suri's cafe from the anime, this would be a character concept album. Character concept albums are albums in which various characters from a property are all given songs of their own to sing. This calls back to something called drama CDs, which are popular in Japan. Let's have a little history lesson real quick. In America, back before television became the standard, radio dramas would be streamed over the air. In these, there would generally be a narrator telling the audience a story, and actors would read character dialogue in order to bring the story to life. A famous example of a story, which began as a radio drama before becoming even more popular with a movie adaptation years later, is Little Orphan Annie. In the UK, many Doctor Who stories in the 90s would be shared through drama CDs, an evolution of the radio drama, but this time in the form of a CD, which you can listen to whenever you want. In Japan, this drama CD format is still very popular, with tons of properties receiving drama CD stories even today. In a way, these character concept albums are an extension of drama CDs, because they retain the idea that voice actors are reprising their roles and acting in character, although it's in the form of music. Japari Café would feature 5 songs sung in character like this, as well as one 17-minute-long classic CD drama story about Serval and Peppapu. It would be written by Tatsuki himself, and called Japari Bun Hunt. This album was released less than 2 weeks later, on June 7th, and what really blew me away was the weight of this package. This is probably double the weight of your normal CD case, and it turns out there's a great reason why. It contains not only the booklet, not only a big sticker, but it also contains the sheet music for the album. They really went above and beyond here, helping people learn how to play Kemono Friends music on guitar and piano. The anime only ended 2 months ago, and we already had a new episode, a game and another screen project teased, and a CD combined with an educational tool out on the market. Like I said before, Kemono Friends fans were eating good, and we still had plenty more on the horizon. 1 week after the release of the album, the Kemono Friends stage play opened its doors. The play starred Hotaru Nomoto, who had previously played the titular role in the stage adaptation of Sailor Moon. She would take on the role of a newly born friend named Okapi. The cast of the anime reprised their roles, so audiences got to form an even closer connection to them, seeing Serval and Arai-san and Peppapu idols in the flesh for the first time. The stage play opened on June 14th at Club EX, a venue at the Shinagawa Prince Hotel in Tokyo. This is a lavish hotel. This place features 11 IMAX theaters, an aquarium with live shows, and a bowling alley. Club EX is one of 2 concert halls in the venue, and it would be the location for the premiere of the Kemono Friends live show. So, how did it perform? It was set to have 9 performances over 4 days, from June 14th to the 18th. Advance tickets for the performance sold out immediately. They had to add 2 more performances on the 15th and the 16th just to accommodate more people. Simply put, the Kemono Friends live show was more successful than they had even planned for. All this, and the series hadn't even had its biggest promotion yet. A promotion so big that people in America are still talking about it today. In 2021, the YouTuber Wang even made a video about this. That's right, Kemono Friends had already situated itself as possibly the most popular anime among people in Japan, and it was about to become just as popular with animals. The Tobu Zoo, which I love specifically because it has the shoe bill, decided to do a promotion with Kemono Friends. Promotions featuring Yoshizaki's characters are nothing new. The Kuramoto Zoo, for example, had done a promotion with Sergeant Keroro back in 2012. However, this Kemono Friends promotion would go on to be far more than a footnote in the series' history. From April 22nd to June 25th of 2017, between 26 and 60 cardboard standees of Friends would be put in their corresponding animal enclosures. On top of that, a 1-minute voice recording from Arai-san would be broadcast throughout the park. Lastly, themed badges would also be sold, although every single one would be sold out within the first hour and a half of opening day. Within the week-and-a-half span of April 29th to May 7th, the zoo's attendance was stated to be more than 113,000 visitors, which is over 20,000 more visitors than the previous year. Other zoos, including Kumamoto, also celebrated Kemono Friends with themed cookies, but nothing topped the popularity of what would happen at the Tobu Zoo. Okay, let me set the stage. What happens when a person is ostracized from society? It's a tale as old as time. A man and a woman are happily in love. They even have a child on the way. Life is as good as it can be. But then tragedy strikes. The man gets sick. He gets very sick, and he has to enter intensive care. There's no telling if he'll survive or not, and ultimately, the woman decides that she has to move on. She can't wait forever for the man she loved to hopefully someday come back. Her child is sent away, so she never sees him, and over time, any lingering feelings she might have had for her former husband dry up. There are no more tears to shed, and she moves on. She finds a new man, and they live together happily. She introduces him to her friends, and they end up forming a positive community. But then something happens, which she never could have expected. Her ex-husband wakes up. He survived intensive care. He's healthy and he's ready to get back to his old life with the woman he loved and the child they were going to raise together. But that's impossible. His group of friends have moved on. His wife has remarried and his child is gone. Worse yet, he's ostracized by the people who used to be his friends. In their eyes, he abandoned his family, and his wife spent all that time bonding with them on her own. They had accepted that he had died. He wakes up to discover that the whole world has moved on without him. Everywhere he goes, it seems like people avoid him. He's made fun of, bullied relentlessly. Nobody seems to accept him for who he is, and the once respectable and beloved man has become a symbol to mock. He let his family down. He deserves nothing. His former wife and her new husband would soon have a child together, and the man didn't feel hungry anymore. There was no point in eating or sleeping. The light of his life had gone out, and there was nothing left to do but wait for it all to end. Every day, when he would see their child, it was a reminder of everything that life was supposed to be for him, and what was taken away. So it became easier for him to just stay in isolation, and simply never leave his home. And then one day, the man sees this. It's similar to him, but unlike everyone else, she doesn't run away from him. She doesn't make fun of him, and when he tells her that he loves her, she seems to listen. This is the story of what happened to Grape-kun, a Humboldt penguin at Tobu Zoo. It turns out that penguins mate for life, and when Grape-kun, The once beloved penguin was sent to the medical ward. His life went down the toilet. It seemed like he might be depressed forever until the Kemono Friends promotion began. At first, people thought he was just a silly little guy, but when he began doing mating calls for the standee, it became clear to everyone that Grape-kun loved Hululu. News headlines spread around the entire world about what had happened. Anime's greatest real love story is between a penguin and a cardboard cutout. Penguin finds anime waifu in Japanese zoo. Grape-kun had found a whole new lease on life because of Kemono Friends, and the Western world became keenly aware of proof that even animals can have waifus. Grape-kun's appetite had returned, and he started happily playing in the water. He spent most of his time standing near Hululu, but regardless of if he was or not, he had finally become a happy penguin for the first time since his wife had left him. He became such a popular attraction that Hululu's voice actress, Chikuta Ikuko, visited him on May 20th, 2017. He actually got to meet his waifu in person. The Kemono Friends promotion ended on June 25th, but the zoo decided that the bond between Grape-kun and Hululu was too important to break. Even after the end of the event, Hululu remained with him. Countless pieces of art were drawn, both official and fan, to celebrate the two of them. In October, later that year, Grape-kun's weight noticeably dropped. He was an aging penguin at 21 years old, past middle age for his species and older than humble penguins in the wild usually reached. The zoo staff brought Hululu with him to the medical center to keep him company. As this article by Medium put it,
For many penguins in captivity, the cause of death is commonly respiratory in nature, and many suffer from asphyxiation before they die. However, this was not the case with Grape-kun, who passed away peacefully with his beloved Hululu by his side.
Fans mourned the death of Grape-kun, a true Kemono friend. He died on October 12th, and 2 days later, a memorial was held. Offerings were given in remembrance of Grape-kun, including a drawing of the pair by Yoshizaki, and later, cardboard cutouts of both Hululu and Grape-kun would be put up to honor his memory. Everyone from the fans, to the series creator, to the staff of the zoo, could all be a part of this one special moment in history, where animals and humans could see each other eye to eye. This story is a lot of things. It helped a penguin through a difficult time. It speaks to the great character design of the series. It humanizes animals, who may be hard for people to relate to. It shows how much love and affection the zoo staff and Kemono Friends had when they made new standees for the zoo after Grape-kun passed away. It demonstrates how much fans connected to both Grape-kun and the character of Hululu, and it all happened at the right time and place to become famous worldwide. Interest in Kemono Friends spiked after the news headline broke. The series had been an enormous hit in Japan, but now everyone knew about Kemono Friends and wanted more of it. It was in that same month of October, when Grape-kun passed away, that the second volume of Kemono Friends a la carte was released and hit #1 in books on Amazon Japan. Kemono Friends had become a sensation, which even other species wanted a part of. The series had reached what I would call the peak of Tanoshi, in that it was a level of fun and happiness that literally everyone could participate in. I mean, it had done what most people had just assumed was impossible, bridged the gap between humans and animals. This series about animals becoming humans had actually managed to humanize a real animal. If this series had a mission statement, it had now accomplished it. 1 week after Grape-kun passed away, on October 18th, Bushiroad would give a huge update regarding Project G. It was announced that several games were being worked on, and they might even consider reviving the long-dead mobile game from 2015. More importantly, the anime tie-in game, which was hinted at in April, was finally given a title. It would be called Kemono Friends Pavilion. Within 24 hours, more than 50,000 people had already pre-registered for the smartphone game. It was set to launch before the end of 2017, but it would ultimately be postponed until January 2018. In November of 2017, the official Kemono Friends YouTube channel began releasing previews for the second Kemono Friends character album. It would be a direct sequel to the original, called Japari Café 2, featuring this adorable case art of Serval not knowing how to hold a microphone. Actually, all of the friends are holding microphone-like objects in their own way, which I find incredibly charming. Kaban is giving orders with a megaphone, and Silver Fox is dismantling a microphone to see how it works. Ezo is probably using a Nintendo DS or a phone microphone, and the owls are using spoons like microphones. But Northern White-Faced Owl is eating it. Honestly, peak art design. The album was advertised alongside a song called Fre Best Friends, which isn't actually on the album. Rather, it was the main theme song for the new game, Kemono Friends Pavilion. However, the CD would come with an extended booklet like the original, which did contain the sheet music for Fre Best Friends. Unlike the original Japari Café, which, while reportedly a huge success, admittedly contained only 3 original songs and 2 from the anime, Japari Café 2 would contain all original music. With 8 all-new songs, it would be one of the few Kemono Friends albums to not contain a cover of the anime's opening theme, Yokuso Japari Park E. I think this album is excellent. While the CD drama from the first album was a fun idea, and the main song, Kemono Parade, is one of my favorite Kemono Friends related songs ever, I do have to question why the album was so short. That is not the case with this second album. Lesser represented friends, like Small Clawed Otter and the Owls, are given their own songs, and having 8 original songs allows the album to feel more complete. A standout of the album is Do Re Mi Fa Rondo, a cover of a Hatsune Miku song, calling back to the anime's origins using the Miku Miku dance software for animation. Another song, this one by Peppapu, called The Wanted Criminal, is a great one too, and it's what I used at the beginning of the video. But my absolute favorite is the song by the Foxes, Yukemuri Utopia, which sounds completely different from anything else on any one of these albums. Also, in the booklet art, we get to see Peppapu all writing together with Marge, and we see Hululu spending time with her beloved. Grape-kun is right there with her. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the name given to the trio of Serval, Araisan, and Fennec. By this point, the 3 of them were starting to get lumped together more and more as the mascots of the series. Araisan was even the voice announcer back during the promotion at Tobu Zoo. The 3 of them are seen together on the cover here, and they were also together on the cover of the original album. I find this to be noteworthy since they were the characters originally envisioned as recurring. Way back during the Season 1 interview, it was Araisan, Fennec, and Peppapu, which Fukuhara said should be recurring to give the anime a sense of continuity. All of these characters are on the Japari Café album artwork. When the Kemono Friends live show came out, it featured Serval, Araisan, and Fennec as the main characters, but left out Kaban. By the time of the second album, Serval, Araisan, and Phoenix seemed to be given a heightened sense of importance, all being at the top of the case artwork. The three of them would be credited together in the album booklet under the name Dobutsu Biscuits, which translates as animal biscuits or animal treats. They were also credited this way in the first album, but by now, it's clear that the three of them are becoming the new faces of the series. Japari Café 2 released on December 13th, 2017, 1 year to the month from when the original mobile game had gone offline. In the last year, Kemono Friends had established itself as a titan of Japanese media. It had an unbelievably successful anime, 2 character albums, half a dozen zoo promotions of which one would rise to legendary status, a stage play which sold out immediately, a #1 book on Amazon, a game with more than 50,000 pre-registered users, and that's not even mentioning the metric ton of fan art which people poured their hearts into because of how big an impact the show had on them. Had it gone on like this, or if it had ended here, Kemono Friends could very well have gone down as one of the biggest success stories of all time. But it didn't.